hello everybody, and welcome back to another edition of TJ's Talk Show. And it is a cold Friday night or Friday afternoon here in Portland, approximately 36 degrees. And last night we had some freezing rain and a little bit of snowfall, so the the roads are a little icy. They are getting better, but anyway, we have an exciting Friday afternoon for tonight's show. So we'll quickly talk a little bit of baseball. There was a big name signed, especially to a rival team in the MLB world. And we'll go ahead and recap the Raiders-Chiefs game that happened last night. And it did not go my way, but you know what? I could take away a couple positives out of last night's game, and then we'll quickly recap the NBA. So let's quickly get into the MLB. And the big signing yesterday that happened was Dexter Fowler, outfielder, formerly from the world champion Chicago Cubs, has signed with division rival the St. Louis Cardinals. And that is a huge deal. Not just number-wise, but just what Dexter Fowler meant to the Cubs, who already had a log jam in the outfield this coming season. They already traded Jorge Soler, but John Jay, Albert Almora, Kyle Schwarber, former Cardinal Jason Hayward. So there was clearly a lot of roadblocks, even though Dexter Fowler would have started over every one of them in center field. But now he decided to take his talents south to St. Louis and sign with the Cardinals, and that's a reported 5-year, $82.5 million deal that Dexter Fowler will now be patrolling the outfield of Busch Stadium on a nightly basis. And he does have a full no-trade clause in that contract, but since the Cubs did tender him a qualifying offer, the Cardinals will forfeit their 19th overall pick, and the Cubs will be able to get that, I believe now with the new CBA, and it was over $50 million, they will get that compensation pick after the 4th round. But Dexter Fowler signs with the Cardinals, which kind of gives the Cardinals a little bit of a revenge after the last couple of years. John Lackey, Jason Hayward were Cardinals and signed with the Cubs. So Dexter Fowler, not only a big pickup for the Cardinals, but it's also a little bit of revenge for the Cardinals that were able to take a big piece of last year's team and bring them over to the so-called good side, depending on what side of that rivalry you're on. So that was the big news in the MLB. Now, since quickly got that over with, I have a good about 11 minutes to really talk about this NFL game that happened last night. And in my opinion, it was the best Thursday night football game of the year. And no, I'm not just saying that because it was the Raider game. But there's been a lot of bad games on Thursday night. A lot of people really don't even like the Thursday night game besides the Thanksgiving game. And I would say I'm in that boat. I don't like the Thursday night. It's a quick turnaround. And football's not as good. It just, as a viewer, the football just isn't very. It's not a good game to watch. I mean, we've seen some pretty bad games. I remember the Panthers beating up on the Saints about 3-4 weeks ago. I mean, it's just been bad all the way around. Thanksgiving was a couple of good games. Last night was a good game. And it wasn't the Raiders' night. And you can clearly tell Derek Carr had a really bad night offensively. He did go all week saying that he loves the cold, and that might be true, but that pinky finger definitely does not like the cold. That's the 3rd straight week, I believe. See, I think he heard it 2 weeks ago. So this is the 2nd straight game where he did not take a single snap under center, so he's really trying to protect that pinky finger. He's got it all splinted up, got it wrapped. And you could tell last night if you watched the game, he just didn't have the same touch that he did over the course of the season. He missed a lot of easy passes that he normally makes with his eyes closed. So that was a rough night for Oakland. Oakland also couldn't get anything started in the first half or even the second half until Derek Johnson unfortunately ruptured his Achilles tendon. Prayers and wishes go out to him and his family and the Chiefs organization. You never want to see a guy go down. Last year he ruptured his right Achilles tendon. This year it's his left. Tough blow for the Chiefs. And until that moment, Oakland really couldn't do anything on the offensive side. They were up. They scored the first 3 points of the game thanks to a muff putt by Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill ended up redeeming himself by running a 78-yard punt return for a touchdown. So he by himself he did beat the Raiders by himself. That was a wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. But let's just quickly look. Derek Carr did have a terrible night, I did mention. He was 17 for 41 with 117 yards. That is his almost statistically worst game ever as a pro. You're not going to win too many games when you go 17 to 20 or 41. And not entirely his fault. I would have given him maybe 25 completions. There were quite a few drops to definite catchable balls that I saw from the receiving corps. Crabtree had a few drops. Clive Walford had a couple drops. Cooper had a drop or two. Andre Holmes, Seth Roberts all had a few drops respectively. So, yes, there was a lot of passes Derek Carr missed. There were also quite a few passes that the receivers missed that hit him right in the numbers. So that wasn't encouraging. The Raiders fall to 10-3. The Chiefs move up to 10-3 and take over first place in the AFC West. And the Raiders fall from the number 1 seed in the AFC all the way down to the 5 seed, since the 4 divisional winners would be the top 4 seeds regardless of record. And then the Raiders would be the 5th seed. And as of right now, the Broncos are the 6th. But Oakland, their strength is their offense. And that was not a strength last night. They had a total of 244 yards, which is almost just over half of the yards they normally average on a game-to-game basis. They're about 400 yards on offense. I believe it 395, but you get what I'm saying. They didn't produce nearly as many runs or yards as they normally do. Their left guard Osemele was out, which is a late scratch due to illness. Really hindered that offensive line. They couldn't quite get the same push from the left side that they've gotten so many times this year. Derek Carr also not being under center really puts a lot of stress on the linemen, because you go 6 linemen, but there's a lot more moving parts, so more linebackers, more DBs, a lot more quick guys that can get around these linemen that typically just push their way through guys. And Osemele gets great push off the line. We missed that a lot last night, but can't make excuses. Latavius Murray had a great game, 22 rushes, 103 yards, and a touchdown. And like I said, they didn't really move the ball until Derek Johnson got hurt, but he took full advantage of the opportunities, did Latavius Murray. And TJ Carey had a pick, but the Raiders could not capitalize. They also muffed a field goal attempt. So I believe it was that possession after the TJ Carey interception. So that was very disheartening. Oakland just couldn't capitalize. They forced 3 turnovers, and I believe they only got 3 points out of all 3 turnovers. So you're not going to win too many games when you can't score off of turnovers. And now let's go to the other side of the ball, and Andy Reid and his Kansas City Chiefs absolutely had their way with Oakland's defense, which we all knew was going to happen. It was just whether it was going to be the passing game or the running game, and tonight it was the passing game. The Chiefs had 323 total yards. Alex Smith went for 262, 1 touchdown to Tyreek Hill, and 1 interception that I mentioned earlier. And he was 17 of 26. So not only was he effective and accurate, he was very efficient. It's hard to 17 completions for 264 yards. That's a pretty good day. A lot of passes to Travis Kelce, the tight end, who had his way over 100 yards for the 4th straight game. He's tied all-time for the most consecutive games over 100 yards. Next week he will go for a 5th straight and have the record to himself. Also, Tyreek Hill, 6 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. He burnt cornerback David Amerson in the first quarter, and that was a huge blow because that made it 7-3, and the Chiefs didn't look back. Like I mentioned earlier, Tyreek Hill also ran a 78-yard punt return back, which was a complete cluster of a mess by Marquette King and the Raiders punt unit. There was a punt to the left side of the field, and there was a penalty, so they had to re-kick. Hill knew the punt was going to go to the short side of the field, the left side of the field, so he stood over there. And I don't know if Marquette King either miskicked the ball or if he was trying to make him more tired by running a little bit more, but he decided to kick it down the middle of the field, slightly to the right side of the field. And all of Oakland defender, the whole special teams unit went to the left side because that was the plan and the original call. And King kicks it to the right. Now, if it wasn't Tyreek Hill and if it wasn't a laser of a punt, Tyreek Hill kept it low last night and he hit some really good line drives, averaged about 45, 50 yards a punt. But you can't kick a low punt and not allow your defenders to get over down the field to one of the fastest guys in the league. And he ran nearly untouched. The only guy that I believe that touched him was Marquette King after he burnt by everyone else on the special teams unit and walked into the end zone. And so Tyreek Hill had 12 points accounted by himself, 14 since they made both extra points. So he nearly beat the Raiders by himself with his 2 touchdowns. And then a couple of... So that was pretty much it. Spencer Ware rushed for 56 yards. That was promising for the defense of Oakland, containing that running game a little bit compared to the last time they played each other when Ware ran for 130 yards. Stacey McGee was out for the Raiders, and that was a huge blow. He's a good run stuffer, but Oakland did a really good job just containing the running backs. Unfortunately, Alex Smith took full advantage of the bruised-up secondary. Carl Joseph, rookie safety, was out last night, so they took full advantage, and Nate Allen was playing fairly aggressive like he normally does, and they took full advantage. They picked apart the secondary, but Oakland's defense did look better. I know the yards don't really say anything, but able to stop the run, which is usually their weakest point on the defense side of the ball, was huge. Now you just got to... If Oakland's offense would have shown up, which Jack Del Rio did an awful job the last possession. 3rd and 6, runs a fade route to, I don't even remember who he threw it to. He threw it in the end zone. I believe it was Andre Holmes went after it, was the intended receiver, missed it. Gets a 4th and 1 after an offsides penalty, and they throw another fade route, not to Crabtree, not to Cooper, not to Walford. They threw it to Seth Roberts or Andre Holmes, and they couldn't convert, which meant the game was over. You're 3rd and 6 or 4th and 1. You run the ball. You have Latavius Murray who ran for 100 yards, getting good push off the line. You gotta run the ball there on 3rd and 6. Get yourselves a 4th and 1, maybe even a 1st down. Latavius Murray was really running fairly well at that point in the 4th quarter, and you throw 2 50-50 balls, and the defense did a great job. Kansas City did a great job. Can't take anything away from them. They played a great game on both sides of the ball. Took full advantage of the Raiders' miscues, which were a bunch of missed passes and drop receptions. So Kansas City wins 21-13. They moved to first place in the AFC West, second in the AFC in the playoff standings seeding. So that is a huge win there for the Chiefs. My buddy Jordan Daney, who probably listened to this at some point today, congrats, you guys beat us twice this season. Hope to see you in the playoffs. The winner will go to the Super Bowl because that'll be the best matchup in the playoffs. Quickly to the NBA, my two teams, my team, the Spurs, lost to the Bulls 95-91, and the Blazers lost to the Grizzlies 88-86. And that is all the time we have today, folks. Thank you for listening. Remember, this is TJ Perneda, and I will see you on Monday.